Hello and welcome back to the next episode. Now before we continue with our Earth play here and what we need to do here and continue our expansion on Mars and everything else connected to that, I have to talk about science again, because the priority list that I mentioned in some episodes ago more or less is done now, except for a few exceptions. And we do have the moon, we do have Mars, everything is on its way. And now the big question is, how do we continue? I already talked about in between that I want to go for a ship currently, and the easiest ship design that can easily take out aliens here in this regard would be something with missiles. And what I really do like, and I will recommend that, is the Artemis Torpedo, which is behind the Hydrolox explosive warhead missiles. So in here we do see the Artemis Torpedo Bay, and this is a really good one. So it's worth taking this one. And that's why I research currently the missile warfare doctrine here. Because with the current design that we have, just a very cheap hull with a rocket behind it and then torpedoes in front of it, that will do the job that we want to, but of course this is not a long-term ship design. And so we have to talk about, okay, where do we want to go now? So how do we expand from our foothold in space now into a proper space presence? And also we have to don't forget the Earth game. So let's talk about Earth for a second, because there are the most gaps in my science currently. So for example, I'm doing the initial research oversight here, which is giving me 10% more science output. There would also be the national labs as the next one, which for example would require a rival law, which we could do. But what we also can, and what we should do next first, is for example pick arrival economics for the arrival markets, which I put on the nice to have list. And also the arrival international relations, because this one for example has corridor diplomacy behind it, which is a very cheap tech to get 10 control points. So you can expand into more nations this way and get more science and everything from this. So you have to balance this a bit against the other priorities that I'm going to talk about now. But sometimes if an AI wins a research slot, so if they win one of the global techs here, which is going to happen eventually again, because they are picking up speed in research as well. So I'm not going to be winning everything from now on. They will pick something, maybe even from this category here. And, well, so what do we want to aim for? First of all, the first good drive that can get you, for example, to the asteroid belt or to even Jupiter if you want to, would be the grid drive. For that, you need to research Cannon nanotubes, which we already have. You also need the solid core fission reactor here. So that's something you need as an energy source for this. And therefore, yeah. This is, for example, what you need to go for. And this one requires solid core fission systems, which you don't have yet, or we don't have yet, but we could go for this. That's something I probably go soon, because it also has nuclear freighters in it, which are also put on the nice to have list, because this reduces the boost cost of getting stuff to space. So I didn't prioritize this one here. I could have done this. It would have been a very good pick instead of going into industrialization of space, and I was hoping that we do not pick Ad Astra yet. But the big question is, for example, what do I pick from instead of missile warfare doctrine here when this is finished? And that would be one of the possible picks to go into solid core fission. So just to get the first reactors for our ship designs later. The other options that we can go into is to follow the path that we are opening up with industrialization and Ad Astra here, when these are finishing eventually. They are very expensive though. And the goal for that is to get better stations and ground bases in space, for which they are no longer called outposts, then they are called settlements, which are the tier 2 settlements here. So that would the full tree, please, here. Settlement Heps. Settlement Core, it's called. This will unlock the tier 2 ground base for you, which we want to have on Mars, basically everywhere. And when we have the tier 2 base, we can also make tier 2 modules on this. For example, we can build a better reactor array. We currently have the fission pile, and from this would come the fission reactor array, which we want to have as well, which I think is up here somewhere. Yeah, fission reactor array here. But also what we want to aim for is now money production and research production on our bases. And also we want to reduce our mission control, or rather we want to generate mission control not only from Earth, instead also from our stations, so that they can manage themselves. And there is a handful of projects that we need to aim for. One is the operations center. That's going to give us 4 mission control in a base where we can build it. The operations center will need augmented reality and the orbital core, the settlement core here, and then we can build it. Augmented reality is also available already. We just need to research it. It's relatively cheap. That's also an option I might take after the missile tech here. So that would lead into the operations center. What we also want is the research campus. The research campus will generate research points on the base that we have there. It will cost us a lot of money and resources to feed, and it will also need the system to have 10,000 population, so we have to build up Mars quite heavily to get to 10,000. This is of course quite a while away still, but this is something we have to aim for which we need quantum computing, for example, which we are relatively far away still. So that's also going to be a long-term goal here, but I just want to mention that that's something we need to aim for. We also want to aim for nanofactories. Nanofactories is also a tier 2 module, and this one is generating money on our bases. So let's see where we have the nanofactory. Let's see. Let's go settlement core, and then it should be in the list here. Nanofactory, here we go. So the nanofactory is going to produce 90 money and consume resources for it. So with that we can counteract the cost of the operations center, for example, and the hub itself, so that they do not eat into our budget here. So that's something we want relatively quickly, and that's exactly why we are researching industrialization of space here. We also need advanced atomic manipulation, but this one we anyway need to go into the direction of quantum computing, I think, if I have that in mind. Yeah. No, wait a second. I think it's correct. Yeah. So we anyway need this. So that's not really a dependency here. We have to go through that path anyway. And then we do have the theoretical setup to produce money, produce science, and produce mission control in each of our bases. And therefore they are more or less self-sufficient from then on. And that's our goal. That's what we want to achieve. And the icing on the cake would be that we also produce even more research bonuses from there. So that we, for example, put a kind of research center into this as well. For example, here, an energy research center, so that we get 10% research towards energy from this. And that's something we're also going to build in Earth orbit, so we get investment bonuses from this, but that's another thing. We also want to aim towards the farm, which is going to reduce resource costs for the population in our base. For that we want the hydroponics bay, for which we need space agriculture and biotechnologies and space research, so that's also a path we have to go. But we are going to be relatively resource inefficient at start, because we are going to aim for the nanofactory here. And that's then helping us to get self-sufficient more quickly, so that we don't run out of money, which is going to be our biggest bottleneck relatively soon. and of course mission control, which is going to be a very big bottleneck as well. That's why the operations center and the nanofactory are my two goals that I aim for right now, and we are well on the way towards this. Also a nice mention here is the Skunk Works, which we are going to get more or less on the way anyway. The Skunk Works is going to give us 1 project bonus. So this is a sign for the projects here, which is translating into 5% bonus on each faction research. It's like this symbol here, so we get +5 for this. That's also worth stacking later. We are going to talk about that when we go into designing our hubs on Mars, for example. But that's a bit away because we have to do a lot of research here. And then there are a lot of other things we have to consider, of course, like how much Earth science do we do, which gives us control points and bonuses to investment. That's always a big balancing decision that everybody has to make for himself. But I just want to mention the necessary researches for space. Of course, there's also the settlement mining complex, but you're going to unlock that anyway when you get the settlement core. And I will write it down again and put it into the description of the video, so you can just copy it or check it out when you need to see what you need to research if you are unsure and don't know anymore. And that can give you a good idea of what you want to go or what you want to do. There's one other dependency that thing that comes out of industrialization of space, which I want to mention here, because I'm going to use it. I don't know if you will, because it's a bit more of an experienced type of thing, a player type of thing. Industrialization of space will allow you to make the construction module, which is the precursor of the nanofactory, the tier 1 module. But the construction module will unlock the outpost kits and the platform kits. And what is that exactly? Well, you can put a platform kit on a ship, and then it allows you to make a base from a ship, so you don't have to send it with boost from Earth somewhere. So this allows you to, for example, make a ship, put a platform kit on it, and send it to Jupiter to make a base there, which is a lot faster than sending it with boost. So I'm probably going to do this just for the fun. And that's why I also will aim for the grid drive relatively soon, so that we have an ion-based drive which can get us to Jupiter in a decent time frame. But this is all a lot of research, because to get to Jupiter, we also have to do the mission to Jupiter here. And that requires us to do first the mission to the asteroids, which we didn't do yet. And then it's 10,000 research towards mission to Jupiter, which is really a lot of science. And yeah, we have a lot of stuff to do. Basically, there's a lot of research we have to do eventually. And we can't do everything at the same time. But we are now at 1.3k science per month. So the total annual income is 15.4k, and that's only us. So if we look at the other factions here, they have a decent income by now as well. They are not as high as we are, but they do have 500 or 700, 800 even. So they are catching up quickly, and they will get even more. And so this will speed up global techs as well as the projects, because they are of course spreading it out as we do. And therefore the global techs will speed up as well. Yeah, and that's the most important things we are going to aim for here. And as said, I put it in the description. Feel free to check it out and do as when you play yourself as well. And now in the next episode, we are going to go back and continue our expansion of the US here.